Hi everyone. I decided to make a video to help explain our standards and our I can statements. And I'll explain all those here in just a minute. This video is for students to help you understand and also for families because I know sometimes things can be kind of confusing or you might wonder why we're doing what we're doing. So if you all will bear with me, I will talk through some of um, these slides. I wanted to share my screen so that you could see what I'm seeing and then we can kind of go through this together. Okay, as far as standards, the state of Indiana Department of Education has has several things that they feel like students should learn when they're in whatever grade they're in. So if, for example, the standards for first grade are the things that we as teachers are expected to teach the students and the students are expected to learn during the time that they're in first grade. And it covers every subject there is. There's for example, math, English, reading, science. There's every subject that you could think of that there's a standard for. And as you can imagine, it's there's quite a few, but of course we have the whole school year to teach these things and to learn these things. So what our school system has done is we have split up the standards into what we call cycles, and there are 3-week cycles, and during each cycle we will teach and learn just a small fraction, a small part of those many standards. And so throughout the cycles, as we go throughout the school year, the students by the end will learn everything that they need to know to be successful and to move on to second grade. Okay. The standards, as I mentioned, the standards are written by the state of Indiana. And as you may imagine, they are not always kid friendly. So that is where the I can statements come in. The I can statements are a way to, the standards have been rewritten so that they're more kid friendly. And we call them I can statements because if the child learns the standard and masters the standard, then they would be able to say, I can do whatever the standard says. Okay. All right. For example, I'd like to just go through and talk a little bit about each of our standards or each of our I can statements for those standards for this cycle that we're in right now. Okay. I will start with, excuse me. I will start with the standard is 1CA4. And basically, it's just telling us that it's dealing with addition. This is a math standard. It says I can add 3 whole numbers whose sum is within 20 to solve real-world addition problems. I'd like to kind of break that down a little bit. This right here, excuse me, it says real-world addition problems. Real-world addition problems are problems that you might see in the real world. We also call them story problems. We call them number stories, but that's what that means. Okay. I can add 3 whole numbers. So we're adding 3 numbers together in these problems. Okay. Whose sum is within 20, which means the answer is not going to be bigger than 20. Okay. This second I can statement says I can use objects, drawings, and equations to add those 3 whole numbers whose sum is within 20 to solve. So it's just talking about different ways to solve those problems using objects, drawings, and equations. Equations, we might refer to those as number sentences, number models, equations, all those 3 names for the same thing. They all mean the same thing. Okay, that is our big math standard that we're focusing on for this 3 weeks. So you'll see a lot of things, a lot of different strategies being taught. a lot of different ways to do this and to solve those problems. Okay, we'll move on. We have several language arts standards for this cycle. Let's see. Our one that we're going to do is talking about different texts. It's nonfiction. So it says I can identify the topic of text, which is telling what's the text is about. We talked about main idea earlier in the year. It's very similar to that. Also, I can identify similarities between two texts of the same topic. That's what we're going to do. We're going to compare two stories that are the same or two texts that are the same. We're also going to find differences between two texts that are the same. So we might think they're all the same, completely the same, but we're going to pick out things that are different about them also. Okay? So we're going to just talk about how two texts are the same and how they're different. Is basically that one. We're also going to talk about nouns. Okay? This is going to be a writing standard. This is I can write sentences with nouns. We're going to talk about what nouns are and how they are used in sentences, and then also capitalizing nouns when appropriate. So there are some nouns that need capital letters, and we'll talk about that, and we'll work on using those in our writing. Another language arts, or we call those ELA, another ELA is this one here. This is RF 4.6. This is reading root words. I can read root words with affixes. Affixes are things that you add to words. So like in this case, we're talking about endings. Here's the root word look. This is just an example. The root word is look, and you could add ed, you could add ing, you could add s, er, or est on the end of the word look to make new words. We'll talk about other root words. We'll talk about other endings and what those endings do, how they change the word, and so on. We'll also talk about how to read words that have endings and how to pick out the root word and that sort of thing. And our final skill standard is this one, RF 4.5. I can read word families. We're going to talk a lot about word families and how we're going to identify word families, come up with words that belong in the same word family. A lot of work with word families and reading them and explaining them and so on. Now that's all of the standards that we are going to cover within this, that we're going to stress within this 3 weeks. That doesn't mean we're not going to cover other things, but these are the main standards that we're going to teach. Okay. Again, there will be other things that we'll talk about that we'll learn, including we'll do a lot of review also from past cycles, but these are the target standards. We call them the target standards because they're the ones that we really want to focus on. All right. Well, I hope this video was helpful, and I hope that it gives you an idea or a better understanding of standards and what they are and what I can statements are. I plan on making a video like this every 3 weeks with the new standards, the new I can statements. So keep watch for that as it'll change throughout the year.